Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. Who here is here for time management, getting A's using time management? Raise your hand. I just want to make sure you're in the right place. Awesome. So my name is Liesl Richardson. I will be your presenter for today, and I'm with the Student Academic Resource Center. How many of you have heard of SARC or have used SARC services in the past? Just the two in the back. That's perfectly fine. So I'll tell you a little bit about SARC as a department and what services we have to offer you as students, and then we'll proceed. So for the two in the back, where is the SARC office? Don't mean to put you on the spot. Do you remember what building it's in? Okay, that's fine. So we are actually in Howard Phillips Hall, which is that building right next to the library in front of the reflection pond. And we are in room 113. That's our main office. For some of you who may have heard of our tutorial services, we actually have 3 different tutoring locations. And we'll go more into that as we talk about the services. Also, feel free in the middle of this presentation to contribute to the conversation because I don't want to just talk at you for an hour, so feel free to participate at will. So, SARC services, we have something called ACE coaching, so that's academic coaching and engagement, that's what ACE is short for. And essentially what we do is we pair you with a peer mentor, someone who is in undergrad, who would be able to coach you through things such as time management, study skills. And they're essentially an accountability system, so a peer mentor that you can rely on to help keep you accountable throughout the semester. It is a free service like all of our services. We also have one of our more popular services, peer tutoring. So peer tutoring starts actually this week within the second week of classes every semester. We tend to offer courses for STEM and business, not so much for math, but definitely more of the hard sciences, physics, and then also accounting classes. And then we also have supplemental instruction, which is, I wouldn't say a form of tutoring, but it's also to help you with your course material. So supplemental instruction, what you have are SI leaders or supplemental instruction leaders that tailor review sessions every week, and their schedule is also posted on our website, so you can always look into that if peer tutoring isn't your thing. And then we also have learning skills consultations. So learning skills consultations are one-on-one appointments that you can have with a graduate assistant who is a learning specialist. So if you would like to talk to someone one-on-one about some of the topics that we cover in our workshops, then you're more than welcome to call our main office and make an appointment to do so. We also have online services and our academic success workshops. You're attending one right now. But our online services, I wanted to point that out also for our live stream attendees because we do have a lot of learning skills resources that you can find on SARC online. So once you go to our main website, which is sarc.sdes.ucf.edu, or you can just Google UCF SARC, you'll find that some of the handouts that I'll cover today or any handouts that you want access to, you can find on that website and you can print them out for free. So just wanted to point that out to you, and we do offer some courses online for tutoring. So that's called Online Peer Assisted Learning, or OPAL for short, and you can find that on our website as well. Any questions about our services? Nope, pretty straightforward, right? Awesome. So like I said, just check out our website in case you have any questions or you would like more details about the services that we offer. And as I mentioned, they're all free, so you are not alone going through your classes while you're here at UCF. Okay, so let's talk about time management. So I want to put a question in your mind. What do you think is the #1 reason why college students are placed on academic probation? So let's explore some of those reasons. Partying too much. So once you get to college, you're really excited to really just like let loose and party because there is an abundance of social activities to do while you're here at UCF. And sometimes if you don't manage your time correctly and you just focus on having a social life, then you might find that your grades start to slip. Another reason why students are placed on academic probation would be not going to class. So obviously, if you party too much, you don't get enough sleep, you don't attend class. So that doesn't bode very well for your grades. Having an overcommitted schedule is also a really big reason why students tend to be placed on academic probation or why they tend to struggle in their courses. The reason for that is you get really overzealous when planning your schedule, and you want to attend class, and you want to have a social life, and you want to build your resume, and you want to volunteer, you want to do this, you want to do that. And then all of a sudden you feel like you're doing too much and you won't be able to focus and put 100% into your academics. So all of that is really just a result of poor time management. So the trend here is that if you work on your time management skills, then you can avoid being placed on academic probation or anything that might hinder your grades, essentially. So time management, as you can see right here, is very important for academics, and it's a very essential skill to have when you're studying here in college. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. When transitioning to UCF, whether it's from high school or a smaller state college, what are some of the most common goals and obstacles that students tend to face during their first semester in college? What are some of the common goals that you guys have here at UCF? Yes?
I would say first off, like trying to fit in, kind of like find your niche, find your friends and stuff like that, which is also like an obstacle because it's so hard to meet people at such a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really big one. So coming to UCF, people really want to find their friends, find their niche, find their social circle, you know, kind of like their home away from home while they're here. And that can also be an obstacle, right? If you can't find your niche while you're here at UCF, your transition might be a little bit more difficult. So yes, that's a very good one. Anybody else, any common goals or obstacles that you might be facing as a student here at UCF? You guys just you transitioned. All right, that's cool. Well, we'll talk about some of the other goals. So some common incoming student goals would be making new friends, as we talked about, continuing to earn good grades, also establishing a direction for your life. So you're here for a reason, and you obviously want to do something with your degree, right? So trying to figure out what that is definitely a big goal. Connecting to campus, so you don't want to feel like you're disconnected while you're here or you're alone while you're dealing with everything on your plate. So you definitely want to connect to your campus and the resources that are here to help you. And to be unique. So we're all here to not only get our degrees, but to become well-rounded individuals. And the only way we can do that is by being unique. So we want to find things to do here while we're at UCF to make us that way. Any common obstacles that you guys maybe have thought of since we started talking about this? So we talked about, you know, not being able to find our social circle. Anything else? What do you think are some obstacles that new students may face? Yes? Right. Yeah, so being homesick is definitely going to impede your ability to transition. Anybody else? What are some common obstacles? Yes, getting used to larger classes. So if you come from a smaller state college, if you're a transfer student, or if you're coming from high school, you're not used to like a 300-person class, right? So that can be quite difficult. Any other obstacles that you can think of? Heavier workload, absolutely. So we're maybe all used to in high school or maybe in a smaller institution just coasting by. And when you get to college or you get to a big institution like UCF, you can't really coast by, right? So your workload increases in your classes, and maybe you start a part-time job. So there are definitely some obstacles that you have to learn to maneuver through while you're here. So a list of some of those obstacles, along with the ones we've discussed, would be finding your major. So a lot of students come to UCF for the first time and they have no idea what they're going to do. So definitely choosing the correct major or the right major for them. And then also some students start off with one major and they end up switching, right? So that's definitely a big obstacle. You want to be happy with the choices that you make while you're here. I myself am a graduate student and I've changed my major 3 times. So it is definitely a very common obstacle. Family commitments is another one. So it's easier while we're at home to fulfill our family commitments, but while we're away in college, we want to be able to still call mom and, connect with her, or maybe see our family members when we want to see them, while balancing our schedule while we're UCF students. Personal issues tend to be a pretty common obstacle when doing well in college. So a lot of things come up. You may experience some kind of anxiety, financial issues, whatever the case may be. These are all obstacles that we face as individuals and then as students as well. But there are resources here to help you through that. And making sound decisions. So while we're here, we want to follow the UCF code of conduct. And so making sound decisions is definitely an obstacle. We just want to make sure that we continue to do that. And then we go back into lack of time management skills. So a lot of the issues that students find themselves in, as we discussed, would have to be due to lack of time management. And we're going to talk about how we can absolutely eradicate that. So I want to ask you guys a question. Now, we've talked a little bit about some goals and obstacles. I want you to tell me what you think. What do you think would be a benefit of time management? So before you came to this workshop, why did you think it would be a benefit to be here? You learned something, right? That's why we go to workshops. So that's why we go to classes. We want to learn something. But how do you feel time management will benefit you? Yes? Reducing stress. That's a very good one. So one of the reasons why students really want to get into time management, buy their planners, fill out their calendars, they really just want to reduce the stress of planning everything that you have on your plate. Any other benefits that you can think of? Yes? Better grades, yes, very good one. So as I mentioned before, time management benefits that you can think of. Those are 2 very good benefits, 3. Okay, so we're going to move forward. But I just want you guys to think about why you're here while we're going through this presentation. Just find a reason to change your habits if you feel like you have bad time management habits. So there are essentially 3 rules for effective time management, and we're going to go through them one by one, okay? So the first one is defining your priorities. So when you define your priorities, you want to start to plan things. So when you plan things, you're not going to say that you're going to prioritize binging a new Netflix show over starting an assignment, right? So taking the time to evaluate all of the elements that are currently in your life and figuring out what is important to you is going to be the best way to prioritize your life. So use lists to set priorities, plan activities, and then measure your progress. So lists are going to be a very effective way to do that, and we're actually going to talk about some other ways that you can break things up into smaller projects or deadlines or deliverables, and you can use those deliverables as a means to measure your progress. Okay, so definitely defining your priorities, a very important rule for effective time management. The second important rule is don't create impossible situations. So we talked about how a lot of students tend to overcommit their schedules when they come here to UCF or to any larger institution, and we just want to not get too caught up in all of the things going on around us. I mean, think about Wednesdays here at UCF when all of the booths are out there and they're talking about all these cool clubs and organizations that you can join. It may be overwhelming. So you want to make sure that you don't get too overly involved and let your grades slip. So avoid taking on too much stuff. Learn to say no. So when you are already heavily involved on campus, you're a fully enrolled student, and someone else comes up to you and wants you to join their club, have the discipline to say no if you can't commit to it that semester. So definitely be realistic about all of the things that you're committed to. If you have to work as a student, be cautious about your work hours. So I know it's very important to fulfill some financial needs, of course, as students, but we want to make sure that we're not overworking ourselves and then hindering our academics in the process. Use time to create success and not failure. So when your professor emails you to cancel a class, what are you going to use that free hour for? Are you going to use it to go on social media or hang out with your friends or get an extra snooze? Or are you going to use that extra hour to get a head start on a homework assignment for a different class? So these are just some things to think about. You want to definitely use time to create success and not failure. Another thing is if you see on your schedule that you have a lot of free time between classes, use that free time to your advantage. You're already here on campus. You're already in the class mode on a Monday morning. Use that time to get started on all the things you need to get started on. That way, you get everything out of the way, your classes are done, and then you can spend the rest of your day doing what you want to do. So it's all about prioritizing and using time to create success and not failure. Another thing is you want to be realistic about school. So there's one extreme where you are too involved in what you want to do socially, and then there's that other extreme where you are too heavily involved or invested in your academics, and then you forget about the other parts of your life. Time management is all about also taking into account all of the other things that are going on in your life. You want to make sure that you still maintain a social life, that you still build your resume, that you still communicate with your family, that you still have me time, right? Me time is very important to all of us. So definitely be realistic about school. It's not all about your grades. Another thing is for most classes, now this is just a rule of thumb and it can definitely adjust based on your major and the classes that you are taking. But for most classes, you want to plan to study or do homework a minimum of 2 hours per credit hour that you're enrolled in. So if you're enrolled in 12 credit hours a semester, then you want to plan to study about 24 hours a week. Now that may seem like a lot, but there are some courses like SLS maybe that don't require a lot of study time, so you can kind of adjust accordingly. And then there are classes like, I don't know, organic chemistry that require more than just that 2 hours per credit hour, right? So probably about 10 hours a week for Orgo. But yes, that's a rule of thumb that you guys should definitely consider when building your study schedule. Another thing is for STEM majors and graduate students, you might want to consider upping that rule of thumb a little bit by 3 hours per credit hour. As I mentioned, some classes are just easier or harder than others, so you can always, just adjust it accordingly. So I'm not sure, but I think most of us have seen this pyramid, right? So there are two extremes, I think, of students. There are students who feel like this is all that there is to their life in college. They have to either choose to party and get good grades but never sleep. Or they're like, okay, well, I want good grades and enough sleep but no social life. Well, that's not really a realistic kind of way to manage your time, right? Because you start to miss out on your college experience. So you definitely want to balance these three instead of just choosing the two. And then there's that other extreme, and we talked about this overcommitted student, right? So this overcommitted student wants to attempt to do everything until stress takes over, and we talked about the stress, and things start slipping, and you end up crying in your bed, watching Netflix, and you just give up on everything because it's too difficult to manage. I've done this, absolutely, and I think most of us may be guilty of this. But what we want to do is essentially fix this so that we can essentially choose all we need for a well-rounded and well-balanced life. So we want to be able to get good grades. We want to be able to get enough sleep, free time. We want to be able to make that extra buck. We want to have some relationships. We want to have friendships or actual relationships. We maybe want to do research or an internship. Now, these are all essential portions of your life that you need in college for that college experience. So keep this in mind while we go over the different methods of time management. And the third rule, and this is probably the hardest one to follow, avoid distractions. So I'm just going to ask the crowd really quickly, so what is your biggest distraction? Yes, your phone. The clubs, yeah, the clubs on campus, yeah, they're a big distraction because you want to get involved with everything. It's all new to you. You just want to try everything out, right? Yeah, it's a huge distraction. And we talked about technology, right? Your smartphones are definitely going to be a huge distraction. Anybody else? What else is distracting to you? Yes. TV, yes. I can agree TV is very distracting. Anybody else? I would say those are the three major distractions that we would find here at UCF. So who here has heard of pocket points? Most of us, right? So now this is not really helpful for all students, but it's definitely something that you can try if you haven't before. It's an app that you can download on your phone. As I mentioned, it's pocket points. Essentially what you would do is when you sit down to study or you go to the library, you just lock your phone, put it down while the app is running, and you accumulate points while you're not unlocking your phone or checking it. And you can actually win free things or get coupons and stuff for retailers around campus or UCF. So it's definitely an incentive, an incentivizing program that'll help you from keeping distracted. But like I said, it's not helpful for a lot of students, so definitely try it. And if not, I would implore that you just keep your phone down while you try to study. So let's move into the 3 time management techniques. So throughout the remainder of this workshop, we'll explore the following organizational and time management techniques. The first one is called the 3-list method for back planning. The second one is semester at a glance, and the third one is the 8-hour daily schedule. As I mentioned, all of these handouts, I'm actually going to share them with you. You can find them on SARC Online by going to our website, then to SARC Online, then to Learning Skills Resources and Time Management. So I'm going to go ahead and share the first one with you. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. We'll talk about Goose Chase after. If you're here for Link Loot and you're using the Goose Chase app, we can talk about it. I'll leave a few minutes towards the end and we can work out the logistics of Goose Chase. All right, so I'm going to share this worksheet. If you have something to write with, I encourage you to try this out. Can you take one and pass it on? Mm-hmm. There you go. So what you'll be doing for back planning would be taking a long-term goal or a project or just something on your to-do list. You're going to break it down into something that you can accomplish on a weekly basis to work up to that long-term goal, and then you're going to break up what you want to accomplish on a weekly basis to what you can do on a daily basis. So as you can see, that's why it's called back planning, because you're going from long-term to short-term. And it's a great way to measure your progress. So what I'm going to encourage you guys to do is just to take a minute and think about a few long-term goals that you may have for this semester or this month. So whether that be go on Dean's List or get an internship, just think about one long-term goal that you may have, or 3. Then once you've done that, I'm going to encourage you to follow step 2. So make a list of weekly tasks that you can do to achieve your goal. So if you have a long-term goal of graduating with a 3.0 GPA or above, then your weekly task list should list that you want to earn an A on, let's say, Friday's biology exam. So go ahead, think about what your long-term goals are, and then break it up on what you want to do on a weekly basis to accomplish that. Okay, and then once you've thought about what you can put on your weekly task list, then I want you to take it a step further and then think about how you can organize your weekly calendar with daily duties from what you put down on your weekly task list. So if you put on your weekly task list that you want to get an A on your Friday exam, then what you would do on a daily basis is schedule some study group times or maybe schedule going to tutoring for that particular subject. Now, is there anybody that wants to share what they have written down so far? So someone want to share their long-term goal to start off with? Yes. Get a scholarship? Okay, that's a wonderful long-term goal. I'm sure a lot of people have that goal in common. So what did you put down for your weekly task list? Keep applying for scholarships. So maybe apply to 1 or 2 scholarships a week. And then on a daily basis, what did you write down? Apply for the scholarships? Okay, yeah, so that's a great plan. So you put applying for those scholarships on Saturdays and Sundays. So you set aside the time to do the things that would help you work up to your long-term goal. Anybody else want to share? What's your long-term goal? Don't be shy. Get A's? Okay, so that's a very good one. What did you put down on your weekly task list? Study and work on homework, and then what did you put on your daily? Okay, so Monday through Friday, you are dedicating your time to getting your A's, essentially. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So the back planning method, now that's just one way to manage your time. Sometimes you may need to delve a little bit further into that, or maybe you're pretty disciplined with your time. So if you are disciplined, and this is something we've already done, so I'm just going to skip this. If you're pretty disciplined with your time, the next method of time management I'm going to recommend is called the semester at a glance, or maybe it would be your monthly calendar. So the semester at a glance is a document that you can find on SARC Online. It's essentially the entire semester on one page, which is really helpful because during the first 2 weeks of classes, what you can do is actually collect all of your syllabi, and then you highlight or you write in all of your deadlines for homework, your exam dates, or any project deadlines that you may have for your particular classes. So this is really helpful if you're a very visual person, and like I mentioned, you're pretty disciplined with getting things done. Yes? Need one more? Okay. There should be some extras, so yeah, if you could just pass the extras around. Thank you. So yes. For visual purposes, what I would recommend is once you've written down all of your deadlines or you've highlighted or coded it, I would say make a couple of copies and put it in places that you would see often. So if you visualize or you keep your goals visible on a daily basis, you're more than likely going to be reminded of those goals, and you're going to be reminded to do things to work up to them. So if you see that you have something coming up in the first week of February on this sheet, in your binder or on your bathroom mirror or on your fridge, you're more than likely going to say, hey, okay, I have to start preparing for this thing, and you're going to start doing those things. So it's just a great way to be reminded of all of your deadlines. I know some students use this by itself to manage their time, and then some other students use this along with a planner or to-do list just to stay organized. Now, the next method of time management, which may be one of the more popular ones, would be the 8-hour daily schedule. So that's centering your weekday around an 8-hour workday that you would have if you actually had a full-time job. So you would say that you have class at least 2 to 3 hours per day and not counting your labs. And the expected norm for college studying is at least 2 hours outside of class for each credit hour that you're enrolled in. So what you're going to try to do is, outside of your class time, try to schedule all of your studying and your homework in that 8-hour block on your schedule. So what that looks like is from maybe 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 on your schedule, you're going to try to finish all the things you have to do for your classes. Does that make sense? It kind of puts you in that mindset for your experience after college. So when you go in to do your 8-hour workday, whether you do the 9 to 5 method or you just schedule in your entire life, which a lot of students like to do and I like to do, but what you would do is you would go in and put all of your class times first, and that includes labs, and you would color code it. So in this example, this student's classes are all in red, and you want to put that in first and foremost because that never changes throughout the semester. The next thing you would look to put into your schedule would be your work schedule. So if you have an internship or a co-op or you do work part-time on or off campus, you want to go ahead and put your work hours in. Now you can make some exceptions for this if you have a part-time job where your work hours are kind of flexible. You're not really inclined to put solid hours on your schedule, but you know, in that case I would recommend doing this on an online version or an app. So that could be a calendar on your phone, Google Calendar, or Outlook Calendar. That's definitely something that's more flexible to work with if you have a changing work schedule. But in general, you would look to put classes and then your work schedule. The next thing you would put in would be, silly as it may sound, your meal times. As we get really busy in college, we may forget our very basic human needs, like having lunch. So go ahead and you can put in your meal times. Then the next thing you would go in and put, you would see all of the blank space that you would have left, and then go ahead and put in anything that's pertaining to studying or homework. Studying also includes going to your professor's office hours and talking about the subject matter that you covered in class. It also includes going to tutoring or supplemental instruction for your particular courses. It includes going to study groups or just doing your homework. Now, make an observation right here. In those study blocks, all the things in green, it's very detailed and it has the most text. Can anyone think of a reason why? Yes. Yes, thank you. So a lot of people do set aside times to study. Like, I think a lot of people actually do it. But when they go to the library or they sit at their desk, they don't actually know what they're there for, and they end up, yes, goofing off or not staying focused. So definitely be very detailed about what you're doing with your time. So if you say you're going to study from 2 to 4 on a Monday afternoon, then say you're going to study chapter 12 for your math test on Tuesday from 2 to 4. You want to be very specific with the time you set aside. And then, of course, don't forget the things that are important for yourself. So if you want to work out every Sunday, Wednesday, just Sunday and Wednesday, then you go ahead and put that in your schedule. If you want some social time or you want to be involved on campus, you want to go ahead and put those meetings down on your schedule. And then you want that me time as well, right? So whether it's computer time, Netflix time, calling your mom time, you would go ahead and put that in there as well. So just to recap, what does successful time management involve? So it means that you know what your goals are. So you're going to identify what your goals are and then decide your priorities within those goals. Then you will anticipate future needs and changes. So I know a lot of students, for instance, would set long-term goals for the semester, but things may come up, like that's just life, right? So for instance, if you have a long-term goal of getting all A's and getting an internship, but another opportunity comes up for you and you can't get that internship, don't let that discourage you. Anticipate different needs and changes that may come up, okay? Another thing is commit to punctuality and timeliness. So it's one thing to make a schedule, but if you're not timely about it and you don't show up on time, you're not going to build better habits when it comes to time management. The next thing is to carry out the plan you make. So be consistent. A lot of students get really excited when they start their planners for the first 2 weeks of the semester, and then they fall off from it and they don't look at their planner at all again. I mean, what's the point in buying a $30 planner from the bookstore if you're not going to look at it more than twice a semester? So definitely carry out the plan you make, because $30 is a lot for a planner. And then the next thing is you want to recognize that you are in control of the time that you have. Stop making excuses for the time that you say or insinuate that you don't have. You are actually in complete control of the time that you have, so make the most of it. Another thing that may help you with time management would be to develop a UCF support team. So I like to say it's a good idea to talk about your progress and your goals with someone, whether it's your mentor, someone you really look up to. It could be a parent, a professor. It can be your friend, your roommate, anybody, your cat. It could just someone who will hear you out and keep you accountable. So for UCF, we actually have a lot of resources, as you know, and a lot of people that you can actually have to help keep you accountable, and that could be your professor, your academic advisor, the Office of Student Financial Assistance. They're there to help you. Career services, the counseling center, so if you start to feel really stressed out or anxious, you can always talk to them about that. Student Academic Resource Center, we have a lot of services that are pretty diverse when it comes to academics, so you can always use us as your support team. A fellow knight, so most students here on campus are probably going through the same thing that you're going through. So, you know, once you make your friends and you find your niche, talk to them to help you keep accountable. And then the UCF website lists a whole bunch of resources on campus that are all going to be free for you, so so take advantage of that and build your UCF support team. I promise you, you are not here. You're not here alone trying to get through it and struggle. Like, we're here to help you. So definitely take advantage of that. So I want to conclude with this, and I kind of touched base on that on the previous slide, but the bad news is time flies, and the good news is that you're the pilot. So you're in complete control. Don't let time slip by, and do well in all of your classes. So the last thing that we're going to do would be our evaluations. And then if you have any questions about Link Loot, let me know. Or if you're here for a mandatory reason and you need me to sign a form, then I'm just going to stay up here so you can come up with your forms and I can sign them. But please fill out these evaluations before you leave and just return them to me. If someone needs to know that you attended this workshop, please be very clear when you write down their contact information. Maybe include an email or a phone number or just a department name that we can reach them by, and we can let them know that you attended.